Today we're going to be testing out Lies of P on the OLED Steam Deck. How this works is I go through every single preset that they have on the game, low, medium, high, best, and we check out just how good the Steam Deck can handle it. Towards the end of the video, I'm gonna mess around with a couple different options in FSR, from quality all the way up to the ultra performance options that it has, just to see how much we can squeeze out of this game using the Steam Deck. Okay, that's the plan. Now it's time to jump into the settings. FSR is gonna be on quality here at the end. We're gonna mess around with that, but for now, it's gonna be quality from low all the way to best. We're gonna start things off nice and easy, hitting that low, everything set to low. I just now picked this game up, and I'm kind of wondering why I waited so long. Because look at this, mid 70 frames per second, 80 frames per second. Guys, this game looks beautiful. The game developers did such an amazing job on optimizing this game. I just wish more developers would do this. This is a newer AAA title that is running so good on the Steam Deck. All right, low was easy work, so we're gonna bump things up to medium. And even at medium, we are easily staying above 60. In reality, we're still hanging out at the mid 70s. Here and there, it's dipping down into the low 60s, but it doesn't look like it's ever going below 60 frames per second. So even setting this game to medium is a very realistic option to play, because you're always above 60, but you're hanging out in the mid 70s all the time as well. All right, another easy one for it. So we're gonna jump up to high and see if it can keep up. And here it is. Here we go. Now we're in the 50s, low 50s at that. Sometimes hopping into the mid 50s. But again, we are at high settings here. If you really wanted to play this game at high, you could cap at 45 frames per second and have a flawless and beautiful experience. This game just really is taking advantage of this OLED screen. Everything looks so good. Now we're gonna jump up to the highest settings, which they call best. So this is everything set to best. And it's honestly not doing too much worse. A couple frames per second less than we were getting at high. We're getting in those low 40s, but even jumping into the mid 50s again. So even at best, you could probably lock this in at a 45 frames per second and have a pretty seamless experience. Or just keep it uncapped like this and just fluctuate from the mid 40s into the mid 50s. So that was all of the settings from low to best with FSR set to quality. But now we're gonna boost FSR to performance and see how many more frames per second we can get out of this. The settings are maxed out at best. We changed FSR to performance, and now we're staying above that 50 frames per second, even in the high 50s. We're not at that 60. That would have been pretty epic if we could have been at the highest possible quality settings and locked in at a 60 frames per second, but it doesn't look like we're getting that. We are hitting 60 frames per second every once in a while here. Man, this game is just so well optimized. Okay, we just gotta see, can we get to 60 frames per second? We're gonna go to highest performance. Oh, it is so close. 58, 57, 59. And now it's jumping to mid 50s. And then every once in a while just dancing in those 60s. Well, now it just randomly jumped to 69, 72. Okay, these frames per second were all over the place. Maybe it just needed a minute to adjust, because now we're absolutely staying above 60 frames per second. To be honest though, it visually looks worse than it would at low settings. All right, that's enough of ultra performance. We're gonna bump it back down to performance and then the quality preset to high. Maybe these settings will give us a above 60 frames per second without a problem and not give us such a downgrade in quality. So far, this is looking great. We're staying above 60. Okay, it dipped down a little bit below, but I bet you could even lock this in at 60 frames per second and have a pretty solid 60 the whole time. If you weren't watching the frames per second, you wouldn't even know. It's just all this FPS peeping makes people go a little crazy. They go, oh, that's not 60 frames per second. But that's because they're just staring at a little number in the corner of the screen. They're not even just playing the game. I digress. Now, we're going to go down to medium. FSR Performance. What are we going to get here? It was like 80, jumped down to 60, back up to 80. It takes it like a little bit here to lock into where it's going to go. This is like a little tiny spot. We're at 85. That's wonderful. But then it just jumped all the way to 48? 55? Is this going to stabilize? Where are we going to land with the frames per second? All right, this one is just kind of all over the place. It honestly wasn't as high. I was thinking in the 70s was going to be the norm, but it was kind of just jumping all over the place. Well, 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 this brings us all the way back to where we began. Low. But now, performance. So hopefully, we're going to see a major increase, which we kind of are. 80, high 70s. A little while ago, we hit an 85 frames per second. When it was set on FSR quality, it was having a harder time maintaining above 70 frames per second. Now we're always above 70 and easily going into the 80s all the time. So there was definitely an increase in performance setting it to FSR Performance. All right, and just for fun, let's just max out the GPU manually and see if that gives us a little bit more. And it's not. No, we're not even getting into the 80s now. So I'm probably bottlenecking like the CPU and putting too much to the GPU and all that stuff. But this was just a little test. I just wanted to see. So don't hate on me. What should I have set this to? What do you think would make it even better? I think it was doing a good job without me messing with it. So I'm just not going to do that anymore. So I'm going to go back, turn that off. But now I want to go through a couple more with the frame limit set to 73 frames per second or hertz, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we're still at low settings FSR Performance, but now we're capping it at 73 hertz. And I'm a little sad. I was thinking it was going to do this with no hiccups. We are getting a few dips here and there. Also, the pulsing going across the screen right now, that is not something you can see with your eyes. This is just the hertz of the screen and the camera conflicting with each other, so ignore that. But I'm kind of done with this test. It wasn't that helpful. We were never really staying locked at 73, so it doesn't even matter. So I'm going to go back to 90 hertz, keep everything uncapped, and now we are going to do a custom setting. We'll change FSR2 to Balanced, and then inside these settings, everything's set to medium right now, but we're going to dump shadow quality to low, texture quality to high, effect quality to low. We're also going to dump down shading, reflections, and the fog quality to low. Okay, so this is our custom settings. And we're going to give it a minute to figure its life out before we start really paying attention to that frames per second. But again, this game, even at all low settings, looks great. So bumping a few things up a little bit from medium and textures at high, this looks awesome. And we're getting above 60 frames per second all the time, so even if you wanted, you could just cap it at 60. But keeping it uncapped, obviously, sometimes you're getting stuff into the 80s. Overall, Lies of P on the OLED Steam Deck is a perfect new AAA title for this device. It's utilizing the 90 Hz OLED screen beautifully, and the performance we're getting out of this game and the way it looks is awesome. All right, that's it. Let me know if you have any games that you want me to test out like this. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up, leave some comments about anything. Tell me what the weather's like if you would like. I don't care. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.